What's cracking, big dogs? Welcome back to the HQ. Welcome back to the channel. It's your man's Nicholas. Big dogs gotta eat. BDGE Fantasy Football. Football kicked off last night. My Dirty Birds embarrassed themselves on national television. Lost 18-12 to the defending Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles. People are asking me, am I pissed? Am I worried? Here's my takeaway. Steve Sarkisian needs to be the fuck off of the Falcons personnel within the next 3 to 4 weeks. If he is the offensive coordinator by week 8, I'm becoming a Titans fan. Steve Sarkisian was easily the worst. That's that for the Q&A portion. I hope that was valuable. I hope that helped you out. And if you want to subscribe on Patreon and get my weekly rankings, then you can do so at patreon.com/BDGE. And let's dive into part 2 of the video. Offensive play caller in the NFL when he got to the red zone last year. He thought, given the second-year leap, maybe being more comfortable in the system, utilizing his personnel correctly, he would find a way to utilize that time that he had to set up with his team to become a better play caller in the red zone, and we literally saw the opposite. Now, I'm not going to get too into it right now because this is actually going to be a special episode. This is going to be a twofer episode. Earlier this summer, I hopped on the Father and Son Fantasy Football podcast hosted by Justin and Paul, and they asked me to come back on today. Today is Friday, so this is the day after the Falcons played last night, and I'm getting on their podcast later today. So I'm actually going to put my sit-start video into this, as well as the podcast that I have with them. I'm going to film that and screen record that, and that will also be jumbled into this. So this is going to be kind of like 2 episodes in one. We're talking about sit-starts. We're talking about the Falcons game last night. We're going to talk about Le'Veon Bell and James Conner in that one. So we're going to begin with the Q&As that you guys submitted through Facebook, and then it's going to hop into kind of a whole nother video, but it's all going to be meshed into this one video. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk sit starts, fan submitted questions, and I realized that maybe I should do this video on Thursday and the DFS one on Saturday because some of your sit start questions might be revolving around players that play in Thursday Night Football. So let me know what you think about that. Drop a comment down below if you want me to do this video on Thursday, because right now I have it Tuesday waiver wire, Thursday is DFS and wide receiver cornerback matchups. Today, Saturday, is fan submitted question and answers or sit starts and whatever. So let me know what your opinion is on that. Drop a comment down below and hit that thumbs up button while you are down there. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We're going to be bringing big facts only throughout the entire season, and I'll see y'all in a second. Alright, we bike, and I'm just going to run through a bunch of the questions that I got in here. If you want to submit a question to be featured on next week's episode, what you got to do is head to my Facebook page, facebook.com/BDGE, Big Dogs Gotta Eat, BDGE, Fantasy Football, facebook.com/Fantasy Football, and you have to click send a message on the page. First, you got to like the page. Make sure you like the page so you're following it, and then hit send message on the home page. And then from there, you'll see a menu that says either answer my Zam question, or you just submit your question and make sure you hashtag it with answer my Zam question. If you don't hashtag it with answer my Zam question, I'm not going to answer your Zam question. Understood? So that's how you enter in for a chance to be featured on here. So I started a bunch of the questions that we have so far to hopefully get a well-rounded view of a lot of the questions that many of you might have. So the first question comes from Kadeem Johnson. What's up, Kadeem? He says, hashtag answer my Zam question. Hey, was wondering who I should start half PPR, Marvin Jones Jr., Rex Burkhead, or Jamaal Williams. The other thing, guys, I ask you when you submit these questions, if they are like sit-start questions, what I would want you to do is make sure, like he did, put in the league settings. So if it's standard, half PPR, full PPR, otherwise I will probably ignore questions that don't have those included. And if you could, just make sure you put the matchup in here as well. So if it's Marvin Jones, I know they're playing home versus the Jets. Burkhead is home versus Houston, and Jamaal Williams is, I'm not sure if they're home versus Chicago. So just to make my life a little bit easier, make sure you include the scoring settings as well as the matchups. So he has Marvin Jones Jr., Rex Burkhead, or Jamaal Williams. For me, it's going to be the latter of the three, Jamaal Williams, and that's because I think his workload floor is extremely safe. Him and Simon are pretty much the only 2 running backs on the roster right now. Obviously, they have a couple names behind them in the depth chart, but they're the only ones I expect to get runs in this game. With Aaron Rodgers back, this should be a high-scoring game. I think Jamaal Williams will not only get opportunities on the goal line, but we saw in the preseason they were lining him out wide a lot too. So on the drives that Aaron Rodgers was with the starters, they had Jamaal Williams actually line up in the slot and out wide as wide receiver 3 separate times. So he's going to be utilized all over the field. So take advantage of Jamaal Williams while you have him without Aaron Jones right now, because we don't know what that split's going to be. I think Jamaal Williams will kind of own this backfield as the season goes on. But for right now, I like Burkhead a lot. You got to like the matchup with Jones, but Jamaal Williams would be my play here, Kadeem. So go Jamaal. And a lot of these guys, I don't want to like try to spam you or try to sell you anything, but I am doing weekly rankings now, which would answer a lot of your questions just straight up, because I have flex as well as positional rankings if you are a patron of mine. So if you go to patreon.com/BDGE, that's Patreon, patreon.com/BDGE, I will be giving away my weekly rankings as well as a master stat sheet, as well as a private live stream. I think it's going to be every Wednesday night, but if you want to go support the brand, you can sign up to be a patron and get my rankings as well. So that should help y'all out. So we have Rashaad Chetty. Interesting name there, Rashaad. You're going to have to probably let me know how you even pronounce that down below. Nicholas, answer my damn question. Make sure you put a Z in there. This ain't damn question, this is Zam question. I'm going to let it slide because I did say damn in the last video. But from now on, you put a Z there, all right? Understood? Answer my Zam question. T.Y. Hilton or Davante Adams? I have T.Y. and I want to trade for Davante Adams. Thoughts, bro? Oh, so this is a trade question, not a sit-start question. Understood. So this would just basically go on my pre-draft rankings. And for me, I would much rather have Davante Adams than T.Y. Hilton. They are both the obvious number one wide receivers in their respective offenses. At this point, you would have to go with the Aaron Rodgers-led offense, because we don't exactly know what we're getting from Andrew Luck. A lot of T.Y. Hilton's game, a lot of his game plan is, or his production, I should say, is based on the deep ball. I mean, he is the number one and he gets a lot of targets from Andrew Luck, but a lot of it's the deep ball, and we haven't seen Andrew Luck really dial it up, so we're not really sure what we're going to get from Luck. Is he going to be the Luck that we saw in 2014, 2015? Is he going to be the Luck? Is he going to be 85% Luck? Is he going to be 70% Luck of what he used to be? We don't really know that far, so Davante Adams for me, for sure. Red zone weapon. I'll go Davante Adams here. So thank you for your question, Thirashong. Man's Jordan Gordon. Answer my damn question. Who should I start at flex out of Derrick Henry, Kenyan Drake, or Marlon Mack? I'm in a standard league. Right off the rip, you're definitely not going to start Marlon Mack. I don't even think he's going to be playing this week. Let me see if we have any updates on that. So he's returning from the hamstring injury, and I don't believe he's going to be pushed into this game. Even if he was, it would be probably a time split. He returned to practice on a limited basis Thursday, but I don't think they're going to push him into Sunday's game against the Bengals. So Marlon Mack is definitely out of there. We have Derrick Henry versus Kenyan Drake. So I'm actually going to go with Kenyan Drake here. And they're actually playing against each other. So you're seeing two different sides of the spectrum here in terms of the teams. Now, I want to look at the spread real quick, because we have Tennessee, who a lot of people probably, people would be betting on Tennessee to come and win this game because they're very down on the Dolphins. However, the Dolphins are actually pretty good in September. And they are at home, and they're actually only 1.5-point dogs. I think Miami is a sneaky bet to win this game. And unless the Titans are heavy favorites, unless they have very good game script, I don't see Derrick Henry really tearing it up. I don't really like to start guys who don't catch the ball, although you did say it was a standard league, so he has touchdown upside. But what we've seen from Kenyan Drake this preseason is that he is still very much the lead back in this offense. I know Frank Gore is going to be entering the week with some sort of foot or Achilles injury. So he is listed on the week 1 injury report with an Achilles injury. He is practicing. But it's notable nonetheless. So I think Kenyan Drake is going to take a big workload, and even if they do get down to the Titans, he is their main pass catcher there as well. So I expect him to be heavily involved, although I think that will not play itself out week over week. Like, he's going to be a hard sit-start week over week unless he emerges as the true workhorse. But for week 1, I'm going to go with Kenyan Drake here, Jordan. Mike Freaks. F-R-E-I-C-H-S. Definitely not Freaks. That was just an ignorant pronunciation by me. He just says, should I start Phillip Rivers or Drew Brees week 1? He didn't even put a hashtag answer my Zam question, so I shouldn't be answering it, but this one is an obvious one for me, and it's Drew Brees. He is actually my number 1 ranked quarterback for this week. He's playing at home against the Buccaneers. Weak pass defense in the Dome. They should dominate them. They're 10-point favorites. So Drew Brees is my number 1 quarterback. If you have any questions about him, throw him in your lineup for sure. Let's get like some non-sit stars. Let's get some like league-related questions. Shanna, what up, Shanna Beam? Longtime subscriber, I remember. I accidentally forgot to draft a defense and a kicker. Insert eye roll. I don't know who I should drop to pick up these positions or if I should leave the kicker out. I stacked running backs Bell, McCoy, Lynch, Barber, Marlon Mack, Murray, and Penny. I love stashing rookies, which has worked out well in the past, so that is making this difficult. My wide receivers are Thomas. I'm assuming that's Michael Thomas, not Demarius. Marvin Jones, Allen Robinson, and Randall Cobb, standard scoring. Thanks, love the show. Hashtag answer my Zam question. Okay, so number one, I guess you're saying who should I drop? Who should I leave? Who should I drop to pick up these positions, or should I leave the... Okay, so you have to drop two people here. Well, first of all, to answer your main question, should I leave the kicker out? No, you absolutely never want to leave positions open, because regardless of, no one likes kickers, no one really likes defenses and shit, they can absolutely make or break your lineup. And a kicker will give you anywhere from, 5 to 15 points. And if you lose your week by 5 to 15 points, and it's because you didn't start a kicker, you're going to be kicking yourself. So you definitely want to have a kicker and a defense inserted into your lineup. As for who I would drop, and you said this is standard scoring league, so you only have 4 wide receivers. So my initial thought is you're definitely going to be looking to get rid of running backs. So it's Le'Veon Bell, obviously you're not dropping him. McCoy you're not dropping. Lynch you're not dropping. Barber's starting running back, so no, I would not be dropping him. Since you have to drop 2, it's between Marlon Mack, Latavius Murray, and Rashaad Penny. Rashaad Penny would be the first one off the board because he is clearly behind Chris Carson right now, and even if he does start to inch his way into the lineup, it's still going to be a split, and it's still going to be a pretty poor running offense overall. So best case scenario, I see Penny kind of getting into a 50-50 split with Chris Carson by like halfway through the season, and it's just not going to be a pretty backfield from a production standpoint. So Penny would be the first one I would drop. And then it's between Marlon Mack and Latavius Murray. Because you're looking at Marlon Mack, who's coming into the year injured. I would actually drop Marlon Mack right now, and I would keep Latavius Murray. And the reason is because it is standard scoring, and what we've been hearing is that Latavius Murray is going to play a large role on the goal line. If you throw him into your lineup, you're not going to have to, obviously, because you have other running backs. But if you throw him into your lineup, there's a decent chance on a week-to-week basis that he scores a touchdown, and then he gets in for you. And from that, you will be happy with that as your RB4 or 5, for a production standpoint. So I would be dropping Penny. I would be dropping Marlon Mack, but I would keep a close eye on him. I would see, what happens with the other players. And if we see, Latavius Murray only ends up getting 2 touches, try to drop Murray and pick Mack up. Pick Mack back up. The Mack is back. Pick him back up off the wire because I don't think anyone's going to be rushing out to get him necessarily. So Mack and Penny would be my drops here. Shanna, thank you for the question. So we have a question from Nick Haas. What's up? Currently the commissioner of my high school friend league. Over the years, we have gone through different methods for keepers. I don't like the idea of being able to keep your first round pick or anything like that. So we are currently able to keep 10th round picks or later. Any preference on keeper rules? Answer my Zam question. What up, Nick? Interesting question, and that is exactly what we do. So I'm with you in the sense that if you watch my E-Town Get Down fantasy football or draft party that we put out every year, I actually touched on this, and I said I hate when leagues do keepers that are early round keepers because it ruins the draft. And the best part about doing fantasy football drafts, especially in this instance when you're doing a league with your high school friends, I'm assuming you do a live draft, and even if you don't, but people the best part about that league is definitely draft night. So my suggestion would be exactly what you did. 10th round picks or later. That's what we do. So we have it, if a guy was chosen in the 10th round or later, he is eligible to be kept for the following year. No free agents are allowed to be kept because, again, that would have guys like Alvin Kamara, Odell Beckham, or whatever being kept, and you shouldn't be, I get it that you picked them up off free agent, you should be prized for that, but you are getting prized for that in the sense that you got to use him for the entire year. But if you drafted him, that should be something that you can kind of hold on to and say, I knew about this guy, this was my knowledge about the guy, right? So we do 10th round or later, has to be drafted. However, if the guy moves teams, if he ends up being drafted, then being cut, and then someone else picks him up off the free agent wire, they're also allowed to keep him. Anyone that was drafted, it doesn't matter. As long as he was on the draft board, but he ends up on another team, he is also allowed to be kept. So that is my preference. 10th round or later is good. If you're in a bigger league, 12-team, 14 league, maybe you could push it up to 8th or 9th round. But yeah, definitely later in the draft is funner because it's not as many studs going off. Stefan de Mortier. Hey Nick, I'm one of your subscribers. Thanks for all the good info. Got you. Need your advice. I had the first overall pick and took Bell. Full point PPR. One of the owners is trading me Connor for Jamaal Williams. Should I do it? My other running backs are Howard, Ronald Jones, Nick Chubb. Answer my Zam question. Oof. Touched much on Le'Veon Bell or James Conner in my video. I did. If you're not following me on Instagram, I made a post about James Conner and Le'Veon Bell and my thoughts on their situation right now. If you want to go follow me, it's at BDGE_fantasy football, so make sure you're doing that. Now, the question again is, one of the owners is trying to trade me James Conner for Jamaal Williams because you own Le'Veon Bell. This is a really tough question because Normally I would say no. If you were just, if you didn't own Le'Veon Bell, I would say absolutely not, because Connor could end up being a 1-game, 2-game rental. There are rumors. There weren't even rumors. The people were just laying out the fact that it's possible Le'Veon Bell comes back. If you're watching this, I'm filming this on Friday, so it's Saturday by the time you're watching this. Saturday is a day in which Le'Veon Bell can come back and not miss his game check. So he was tendered for $16 million, or $14 million, a little bit over $14 million, I apologize, which means breaking that down by a 16-game schedule, right? He's getting paid about $900,000 a week per game. So if Bell misses, 1 week, he's going to miss out on whatever it was, $800,000 to $900,000. However, if he reports by Saturday, he gets that game check, likely doesn't play in week 1. They're probably not going to use him, and if they do, it's going to be in a very small, limited role. It would accomplish 2 things for Bell. It'd be a smart move for Bell because it not only doesn't make him miss out on any money, but it also lowers his touch count if they don't play him or if they give him limited touches, which is his ultimate overall goal here because he wants to be fresh and healthy for free agency. That being said, that's, I've been of the mindset that Le'Veon Bell should still be a very high pick in fantasy drafts, and I think he's back with the team by week 2, week 3, the latest. He can wait out until like week 9, I think it is, or week 10 maybe, and still be eligible for free agency. I really don't see that happening. I don't think that's going to happen because if he waits out, think about it this way, if he waits out and then James Conner is a baller, right, and he proves that they didn't really miss a step, then Le'Veon Bell doesn't really have leverage. Not only is he not as valuable to the Steelers, but other teams are going to see like, hey, maybe Le'Veon Bell is not that much more valuable than a James Conner. Obviously he is in a vacuum basis, but you get the point. So I think it would be dumb for Le'Veon Bell to sit out. I just think it's not a smart play, and I think him and his agent understand that. So I think he'll be back sooner rather than later. For that reason, I don't think I would make that move for you. I would say, like, if you are a Bell owner and Connor's on the free agency wire, I would be spending a lot of money to have insurance. But Jamaal Williams will be a perfect substitute for Le'Veon Bell over the first 2 weeks of the season. He should put up monster points. So it's almost like the same production that you would kind of expect for James Conner. The only thing is, if Bell comes back by week 1 or week 2, then you'll be able to use both Le'Veon Bell and Jamaal Williams. So this is more me of the mindset that I think Bell will be back sooner rather than later. If you think Bell is in serious threat of holding out longer than that, then I would think about making that trade. But maybe it's a little bit risky, but I would be of the mindset that Bell will be back because I don't think it's smart for him to keep sitting out here. So I hope that helps, my man. And plus, your backup running backs, Jones and Chubb, are almost useless at this point. So you need to have production right now, and that's Jamaal Williams. If Bell comes back right now, then Connor and Bell are a tough start because they might split the work in tomorrow's game if he plays in week 1, which is kind of a reach, but you never know. Let's see. I got offered either Leonard Fournette and Mark Ingram or Christian McCaffrey and Mark Ingram. Oh, there's no answer to my Zam question. Sorry, Fabiano. Sorry, my man. You done freaked up. Full point PPR for week 1. Choose 2 between Peyton Barber, Brandon Cooks, and Sammy Watkins. Answer my damn question. Hashtag answer my Zam question. Sanaton Sruff. What's up, brother? So I'm choosing between Barber, Cooks, Watkins. Answer my Zam question. So I actually chose Watkins as one of my favorite DFS plays, not one of my favorite, but one of the top DFS plays for the week. So Peyton Barber's more of a workload thing. I think that, the Saints are going to get up on this team, but Barber is still the starting quarterback, and I think he's going to play a lot of snaps in the passing down role. So I think even if Quiz is a little bit involved in the third down scenarios or the pass catching role, I still think Peyton Barber is going to see 4, 5, 6 targets, which makes him ultimately very valuable in PPR, along with any running work he gets. And I think that Saints rush defense is overrated. So Barber should be quietly efficient on the running side of things. So Barber's my number 1, and I'm actually going to go to my flex rankings in number 2 to see where I have Watkins and see where I have Cooks. So I actually have Watkins ranked as 51st overall in flex, and I have Cooks right behind him at 58. My thing with Watkins was that they're going to be playing against the Chargers. Casey Hayward is sometimes he's a shadow coverage guy. They shadowed in about half of their games. But I'm not sure if Casey Hayward's going to be shadowing Sammy Watkins or Tyreek Hill, but they're both moving them around the lineup a lot. That means they'll probably both see a handful of plays against Hayward, which is not a good thing. Brandon Cooks goes against the Raiders, which are going to be one of the worst defenses in the NFL probably. They're going to have a tough time covering Cooks, Cooper Kupp, and Robert Woods. I'm going to go with Sammy Watkins here. One, because he's ranked highly in my rankings, and I think that Casey Hayward does see more coverage against Tyreek Hill. And I think that Brandon Cooks has too many mouths to feed there in the Oakland Raiders offensive group there to rely on him at least week one. I know it's an easy matchup, but I think Cooper Kupp gets the best of this matchup, and I think he's the one that I'm starting. I actually would rather start Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp over Brandon Cooks here. So I'll go Sammy Watkins here. It might be a little bit risky for your liking, but it's close. Like I said, they're like 6 spots apart in my flex league. Let's go Sammy Watkins here. Jarrett Yeskina. What's up, brother? In a 12-team half PPR, I made the mistake of drafting Melvin, Keenan, Royce Freeman, and DT. So Melvin Gordon, Keenan Allen, Royce Freeman, Demaryius Thomas. So first 4 picks are on 2 teams. Do you want to try and sell one of these players if you are in the situation? So like find someone to trade DT with. Answer my damn question. Thanks. So I'm usually of the mindset that I don't really mind drafting multiple players on the same team, as long as you're drafting them at value. Like if you get DJ in round 1 and you get Larry Fitz in round 4 or 5, that's completely fine. If you have DJ in round 1 and then you get Fitz in round 2 or early round 3, that's a problem, not because they're on the same team, but because they are, because you didn't draft them at value. Like they're going to end up with the same amount of fantasy points at the end of the year, whether or not you drafted them on the same team or not. You know what I'm saying? So in this situation, the reason I would tell you to sell DT, yes, that is your question. I think that's what you should do, is because I'm not high on DT at all. I think Sanders is going to be the lead wide receiver here. He's been running like 75% of his routes from the slot. Case Keenum loves throwing to the slot, as we saw with Adam Thielen last year. And I think Sanders has been dominant this preseason. I think we're going to see that roll into the season. So DT, I think his value is not, he might have a good week 1. Who knows, because it's against a weak Seattle defense, but I think as we see the year go on, his trade value is going to go down and down and down, because we're going to see Sanders be very involved, and we're also going to see Courtland Sutton on the outside, which is what is allowing Emmanuel Sanders to run in the slot. So Courtland Sutton is a guy who might steal some of Demaryius Thomas's targets on the outside away. So if you can move DT now for another 4th round wide receiver, I would move DT for Amari Cooper in a second. I would move him for Juju Smith-Schuster in a second. And the other thing about Le'Veon Bell, when Le'Veon Bell's out, we actually see Big Ben's fantasy points per game go up. We see, or his pass, actually I think we see his fantasy points go up. Yeah, there was, Scott Barrett tweeted this out the other day. The fantasy points per game of the skill players on the Steelers with and without Le'Veon Bell. And I was surprised because, yeah, Big Ben's fantasy points went up. I think it's because they obviously rushed the ball less when Bell is out. His fantasy points went up. Antonio Brown skyrocketed. Martavis Bryant's were much higher. And we didn't really see much of without Bell when Juju Smith-Schuster was there, obviously, because they both played last year. But I would imagine his targets go up as well. Someone who runs from the flanker slot and gets more of the intermediate targets rather than the deep ones, and those are the ones Le'Veon Bell is usually very involved in. So I would try to move DT, see if you can move him for a straight up wide receiver move if possible. Hope that helps out, Jarrett. Blake Weevil, we're going to get 2 more questions in here. Blake Weevil, hey man, love the YouTube videos. Thank you, sir. I've got 2 major quandaries. Ooh, look at that high risk vocabulary. Look at you. Heading into week 1, the league I need help in is a 12-team full point PPR. So we got full PPR. Firstly, a quarterback. Should I start Jimmy G against Minnesota, Dak Prescott against Carolina, or should I scoop somebody like Tyrod or Trubisky to stream for the week? Secondly, I have 3 solid options for my flex, but I just don't know who to go with. Currently, I have Aguilar starting. I'm sorry, I probably should have done these, like I said, earlier this week. I have 3 solid options for my flex, but I just don't know who to go with. Currently, I have Aguilar starting, but I also have Allen Robinson and Burkhead. I'm torn between the 3 of them. Can you provide any advice? Thank you. #AnswerMyZam question. So for the first one, quarterback, Jimmy G, Dak Prescott, or Tyrod Trubisky. I am not playing Jimmy G this week against Minnesota. That is an extremely tough matchup. I don't think his numbers are going to be there this week. So Jimmy G is not a play for me. Dak Prescott, I am definitely worried about as well. He's one of those guys that if you drafted, you're hoping to see what we did the first half of last year / 2016. But we don't know what we're going to get, and this is a tough Carolina defense. They're going to be without their Pro Bowl center, Travis Frederick, for at least week 1 and probably further into it. So what I would tell you to do, I'm not streaming my Mr. Trubisky, definitely not. But Tyrod Taylor is someone who I would play here. And I'm assuming this is also a 4-point per passing touchdown league because you didn't specify that, so that's the standard. Tyrod and these rushing quarterbacks are more valuable in these types of leagues. 6-point per rushing touchdown and plus the rushing yardage upside is relative to 4-point per passing touchdown. So Tyrod is someone who's a little more valuable because I think he gives you a 30 to 40 rushing yard floor. Those have basically been his career averages on a per game basis when running the football. So Tyrod is the guy I would play. We look at this Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and they have been struggling pretty bad, especially without Ryan Shazier. We've seen them give up a lot of big plays. We've seen them give up a lot of points. So I'm of the mindset that this Pittsburgh defense is going to disappoint. I think this Pittsburgh offense is obviously capable of putting up a lot of points, which means Cleveland could be in run and gun mode. They could be in point scoring mode, and I think that's good for Tyrod Taylor. He's obviously got these great weapons, the best weapons that he's ever seen. And I think Cleveland Browns are very sneaky play to actually win this game. Their interior line is very, very, very good. And without Ryan Shazier, they should not see a lot of pressure, should not get a lot of pressure up the middle. So I think that the Steelers defense needs to be downgraded a little bit. And I think that this is a matchup to take advantage of for Tyrod Taylor before people kind of jump on the bandwagon of him being a good fantasy quarterback. So, yes, I would start Tyrod over Jimmy G and Dak Prescott. Might be in my, in the minority there. As for your flex question, I don't know who you went with. My answer, it definitely wouldn't have been Allen Robinson. It would have been between Aguilar and Burkhead. I probably would have told you Burkhead. Since you had Aguilar starting, I'm going to assume you kept him in there, which his statistics weren't great, but he did end up being a great PPR play because he caught, I think, 8 passes last night. So if you didn't start Aguilar, I would start Rex Burkhead. And this is a big reminder that you guys, this is a little tip that all you guys should take away from this. If you have someone going on Thursday night, never start them in your flex. You have to minimize risk here. Start them, for instance, Nelson Aguilar. Start him in your wide receiver position if you are starting him, because that gives you more options. If that other player who is not in one of those positions, gets hurt or if he's a game time call or whatever, then you have the option of putting any of your bench players into that flex spot. So say something happens, like you put Nelson Aguilar in the flex, and then you have your wide receiver 2 is questionable, ends up not playing, but you don't have any wide receivers on the bench, you screw yourself. You put Nelson Aguilar as wide receiver 2, you put that wide receiver in your flex, he doesn't play, then you can add in any tight end, running back, or wide receiver on your bench. So just a little tip or trick there. Put your Thursday Night Football players in their starting position, not in the flex spot. I know it's going to seem weird if you have like Odell Beckham in your flex, but it doesn't matter. Don't worry about aesthetics. Worry about getting the job done. So that's a little tip to take away here. So let's answer one more question here. Jordan Cannon, what's up? Full PPR league. Would you start Shady McCoy or Lamar Miller in flex? Answer my damn question. This is going to be Lamar Miller for me. I am shit scared of Shady this week. At Baltimore, a scary defense to run the ball against. I highly doubt he has any success whatsoever on the ground. They have Nathan Petergod starting for Buffalo. I love how they just throw Nathan Peterman into the fire. Their first 3 games are like brutal. I think that's definitely why Peterman's even starting right now, is because you can't throw Josh Allen into at the Ravens, Chargers, at Minnesota. Oh my God, Nathan Peterman is going to struggle. And I think that means they are going to absolutely stack the boxes against McCoy. And the other defense that they're playing against, their only game plan has to be look out for McCoy. They have no other weapons there. They don't have, obviously, Sammy Watkins. They don't have to play the run for Tyrod Taylor or anything like that. All they have to do is settle down on Shady McCoy, and I think his efficiency numbers are going to be horrible. They lost 3 offensive linemen, of course, this offseason. So Lamar Miller is the play for me. I think he is going to be super heavily involved in both the run game and Deshaun Watson's pass game while they play against the New England Patriots, and that game seems to be like it seems to me that could end up in a shootout. It's got one of the, if not the highest over-under points total for the week by Vegas, so could mean goal line opportunities for Lamar Miller, but I also think it means probably 5, 6, maybe 7 targets his way via Deshaun Watson. So definitely in a full PPR league, go with Lamar Miller there, my friend Jordan. And that's going to wrap up this sit-start Q&A portion of the video, but we have more. As I said, this is going to continue. It's going to be a long video for y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you did enjoy so far, thumbs up, please. I would highly appreciate any support that you give me. Of course, comment down below. Guys, I like in terms of sit-start questions, I will try to get back to as many as I possibly can on social media, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, on YouTube comments. But of course, I can't get around to all of you. So again, you could try to submit them here, and I will try to feature you on next week's episode through the Facebook page, bdge.com/. No, that was ridiculous. Don't go to there. Go to facebook.com/BDGE Fantasy Football. Send a message to the page. After you like and follow the page, of course, send a message with the hashtag Answer My Zam.
All right, and for today's episode, the first episode for the non-off-season approach is our first Week 1 episode. We have Nick Ercolano, maybe, back on the show today. Close. We're doing Week 1 start sits. What's going on, Nick?
Hey, Nick, what's going on?
What's going on, guys? Super pumped to come back and join you on. Football kicked off last night, so I couldn't be more excited, except for how that game actually went. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit. I've saved up my energy. I've saved up my rants to kind of come on and throw it out there as a Falcons fan. There are a lot of I'm in my feels right now. We'll put it that way. So I'm excited to get on here and get this off my chest.
Yeah, so let's get on to it right away, y'all. Last night, finally had some football. First game of the season. Eagles versus the Falcons, delayed 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I don't know how bad it was. It was annoying to sit there and just wait, like, what's going on?
I was pouring there. It was pouring.
As a Falcons fan, I think we should just get – what's your overall takeaway from the game as a Falcons fan before we go into fantasy? What's Steve Sarkisian doing?
Oh, my God. All right, so, yeah, I'm glad you started off with Steve Sarkisian. So
here we go.
Steve Sarkisian, first drive. I want to know, first of all, what he's been doing all summer. Because last year, the whole storyline was his first year, right? It was his first year. So we're going to give some of those red zone woes a push. We're going to say, you know what? First year, Kyle Shanahan had some hiccups too. Let's get together. Let's put our personnel in the right places and let's start making some money. Let's start making some revenue in the red zone. Last night comes out, first drive. We charge down the field. I'm like, let's go. This is gorgeous. The Falcons, Super Bowl. Here we go. Get to the 2-yard line. We're going to start off in jumbo sets. So we're going to put all our tight ends on the line. We're going to put a fullback in the backfield, another running back. And we're going to do that against Philadelphia, who has arguably the best defense in the league. What do they expect to come other than a run up the middle? Like, the jumbo sets didn't work in the 80s. They didn't work in the 90s. I don't understand what they do. So they do that, and we're like, okay, let's pass the ball on the goal ine. And they don't put anyone on the outside. This is already I'm sorry if I'm ranting right now, but the one pass play we had, we put 2 tight ends on the side, right? Put 2 tight ends out there. We leave Julio off the goal line. We leave Julio off the field after he's racked up about 45 yards for the team on the first drive. I'm saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt after he calls a fucking jumbo set on the first play, knowing that this was going to get stuffed up the middle. Next play, we're going to put 2 tight ends on the outside. Doesn't work. Next play, we're going to go back to jumbo sets, and we're going to hand it back off to the running back. What happens? We get stuffed again. Dude, that first drive was all I needed to see them on the red zone to know that he did not improve as an offense coordinator. If he's not out of the Falcons, if he's on the Falcons payroll by week 5, I'm not a Falcons fan anymore. You heard that.
Wow. And then the fourth down, they go for it and try to do a run. Not even a pitch play. Just a run to the outside with Davante Freeman, not Coleman with the speed. Oh.
Dude,
I was rooting for Atlanta. When they got down there at the goal line and they didn't get in, I'm like, what? Here we go again.
Yeah, that was all I needed to see was the red zone opportunity to see if they were going to get any new play calls. I'm surprised he didn't run like a fucking jet sweep or something on the goal line like he's been doing the last. Oh, my God. So that pissed me off. But I will say, as a Falcons fan, we do this. We have games like that more often than not. So everyone's like, oh, are you worried about it? Like, you'll have to remember, we also lost to the Bills and the Dolphins in back-to-back games last year. And we still were a Julio drop away from, going deep into the playoffs and making that Super Bowl, right? We lost to the Eagles on that ridiculous play at the end of the game. So, I'm almost used to these games where we should be closing and we should be winning, but we do not do it. So I'm not going to say this is a lost cause, but that was not a nice sight to see from Steve Sarkisian's point of view.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed Matt Ryan can't get that ball in the end zone. I'm so disappointed. I had enough of him last year, and here we go again.
Unbelievable.
Besides that, Julio looks like the offense. 19 targets, 11 catches, 169 yards, and 11 rushing yards.
Just imagine if he got in the end zone once or twice, how many fantasy points he would have had.
The last 2 seasons, including playoffs, Bleacher Report had this stat. It was Matt Ryan when targeting Julio Jones in the end zone, just 1 of 20. Like, they don't even put him on the field enough. Like, if you put the ball in put the guy in the field, he's 6'3", he's not small.
I know.
Do a little fade route, throw it to him at least twice in at least the first 3 downs. There's odds are he's going to moss a guy and catch it like he did the last play of the game. Unfortunately, he's out of bounds because it was an awful throw.
Right.
But
that last play of the game was perfect if you do that on a normal basis. Rather than running it up the middle, throw it up to Julio twice and he will make one of those plays. But just don't throw the ball out of fucking bounds. It's ridiculous.
You heard it here first. Inside sources right here.
I'm upset.
Nick is very upset for being a Falcons fan. Just listen to him, guys. Listen how upset he is.
Miserable.
Yeah, and I would be too. I understand. I'm not happy with the Sark. Sark is bad. I mean, Matt Ryan, I don't think it's great. I think he's overrated just as it is, besides that one MVP season. But people hoping for a bounce back does not look like it because if somehow people lock up Julio, by lock up, I mean not allow 11 catches.
I will say 2 things, though. I will say 2 things in Matt Ryan's defense. This is one of the best defenses in the NFL, and they were on the road. This is like a big game for them, getting pumped up off their Super Bowl win. So I don't want to say – I mean, Matt Ryan wasn't a great start in fantasy anyways to begin with. You know what I mean? So back at home, if he's playing a division game against the Bucs or something, I still very much want him in my lineup. I'm sure there are better days ahead. But it was a tough matchup to start off for for Matt Ryan, but definitely not encouraging in any sense of the word.
Yeah, definitely not encouraging. And then you got to go against Carolina next week. Not too bad. I mean, divisional rival is always tough, but Sanu, I think, caught 2 balls. Ridley didn't seem to be on the field at all. Hooper was there, and then Coleman looked good, and they had to switch pace. And Devonta Freeman's knee injury seems to be nothing major. He said he's fine. But Darius Geis also said he was fine. So hopefully he's okay, because there goes a lot of my dynasty teams.
J.J. had a decent game for only being out for like 30% of the snaps, I think.
39% of snaps, but he had 55% of the carries, I think the stat was. So if someone's trying to sell high, I may have to buy into that, but it's 1 week. The reason why I actually came around on Ajayi later in the year was because of the red zone attempts he's going to be getting, and that's what made his value there. I think also the stat was that Atlanta gave up like some of the most points to like receiving backs, so that's why they implemented Sproles and Clement a lot. So Doug Peterson's a good coach, and he knows what he's doing, so they tried to play the matchup right there. So I think Ajayi's going to get more work going forward, and he did look good in the red zone. And
yeah, I mean, the running back situation in Philly is interesting because, like Ajayi didn't start. He got, I think, 1 snap in the first quarter. And like you said, Atlanta's defensive scheme, like, they're no joke on defense. You got to think about Dan Quinn is the guy coming over from Seattle, right? He's their head coach. So they know what's going on the defensive side of things. That's the way it's set up. They have super quick linebackers, so they allow you to get those underneath throws. They allow you to throw the slot receivers and the running backs. And, right, historically over the last few years, fantasy points are had by running backs via the air. And now that seemed like their attack last night, and Peterson obviously knew that. That's why I thought the interesting takeaway was the fact that they were attacking through the air.
You're good, yeah.
Okay.
Just keep going.
So they were attacking through the air via the running back, but at the same time, they did not throw to Ajayi or Clement. Both have, proven that they can catch balls, but Sproles was the only running back who saw a single target last night. He saw 7 of them. So I think, so that was interesting to me because obviously that's going to be his role. If he's going to be involved in this offense, it's going to be as a pass catcher. But it's not even like the game script got away and they were like, oh, we need to shove Sproles into here and make him a big part of this game plan. It was close throughout. So having Sproles be that involved was surprising.
Yeah, I was a little shocked, but I don't know, part of it was also because he's one of the best, most favorite players by Eagles fans, and it's the first game back from a year off, and they want to use him a lot. I don't think that really matters to coaches because they want to win. And I think it goes back to Atlanta's defense, that being their weak spot, quote unquote. But Nelson Aguilar, it's season for 1 week, SCN and PPR leagues. He looks like Jarvis Landry Jr. out there getting all these 2-yard receptions. But Desmond Trufant, I think, had him a couple of plays, but he looked pretty good. And then Mike Wallace, Nick Foles is not accurate that deep, but I think if Wentz is in there, he connects on that one deep ball, maybe.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think there's many to take away on this first game. It's one game, and then you hear the dog in the background. What's he doing, Dad?
I don't know.
Bring him in here.
Pick him up.
Bring him in here.
He's like 7 pounds.
My subs would love the dog. What kind of dog is that over there?
It's you can kind of see it in my dad's top left of the red thing. It's like a multi-poo. It's like a 8-pound piece of crap.
Multi-poo. That's funny.
I don't know. My mom could have just got home. Who knows?
That's all right. Yeah, so I was a fan of what Aguilar did last night. I mean, if you're in a full PPR, you're okay with it. Half PPR, you probably would have liked to see elsewhere. But I think it goes back to the point of Atlanta's defense. We just don't let up a lot of deep passes, so we were letting up those underneath routes, and that's what they played to. So that's kind of where Aguilar got his points. And going forward, I expect him could still be like this as much as involved because Jeffrey now is saying he's still multiple weeks from being back. So is Wentz, and Aguilar could be the main guy for 4, 5, 6 weeks. We don't know.
We'll take those. I love Aguilar. And I think that's all we got to talk about on this. But let's go on another topic that's also, I guess, up in the air, just like Jeffrey, and that's going to be Le'Veon Bell. Now, what is going on with Le'Veon Bell right now? He's not playing, and what does it mean for James Conner and Jalen Samuels? Dad, I'll have you kick it off first.
What does it mean for me in the subscriber league? Because I got him. That's very upsetting.
A lot of people have him, dude.
There's talk that he might not be back till November, but I don't know. Connor's value, I think, let's see what he does in week 1. Let's just say Le'Veon Bell doesn't come back till November because there's word about that. If Connor does good next couple weeks, hey, start him. Let Le'Veon go on his way. That's what I say.
What about you, Nick? What do you have to say about that?
So this is such a tough, I guess, situation we got going on here because, like I was saying before we started recording, pretty much it wasn't rumors or reports of him reporting Saturday, which is today if my subscribers are watching this. It was just this is the last day he can report while still getting full payment of his first game check. So the whole thing about Bell sitting out, right, is that he wants to get those couple extra $1 million a year. I'm sure the offer he got from the Steelers, the extension, was pretty big. I forget what it was on a per-year basis, but I can't imagine him looking for more than a couple $1 million per year more. And for every game he sits out, he's losing about $900,000 based on the tender that he sends. So if he sits out half the season, 9 weeks or whatever, that's like multiple $1 million per year on that extension that he wants. So he's like losing what he is going for. So to me, it doesn't make sense to see him sit halfway through the year. I see people are like, oh, he can, whatever, I forget the technicality, but if he comes back by like week 9, he can still be a free agent. And I think if he sits out, James Conner plays really well over these first few weeks. Like, Bell is going to just prove that it was a horrible idea for him to do this, right? Because the Steelers are going to be like, maybe you're not that valuable. So I think it's very risky from what Bell is doing. And for that point of view, I think he comes back sooner rather than later. I think we see him maybe this week. We don't know if something happens today, if he actually comes into the building. But I would say he'll be back by week 3, maybe week 4 the latest. I just don't see a lot of upside for what he's doing right now. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either.
I agree.
I think he's hopefully going to come back, like you said, by week 3. But I think right now you got to treat Conner as that workhorse guy because they do love Conner.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Absolutely.
I mean, Samuels is going to be there. I think on Yahoo it was. Samuels is listed as a running back tight end.
Mm-hmm.
So if something does happen to Conner the first week or so and Bell's still not back, you can put a running back in your tight end spot.
Is he listed as a tight end spot?
I think on Yahoo, not on NFL or ESPN.
Yep.
So if you have at least 6 bench spots, it's not a bad stash on the bottom. So you can put him in as a tight end and be a running back. I think it'd be like the first time ever.
Dude, that's incredible because if they don't use Conner on like the opportunity share that Bell gets, say they use Conner, Bell's probably getting 90% of the running back shares. If Conner goes to like 70 and Samuels gets even like 20 to 25% of the touches there, that's going to be so much better than using a tight end, say like Jimmy Graham in your lineup. That's going to be so much more valuable, especially in PPR leagues. If Samuels is getting 3 to 4 catches as a floor plus 4 or 5 rushes, that's huge. So for people that are playing in Yahoo, if he is listed as an RB tight end and you could throw him in your tight end spot, I'd be willing to risk that over a few different tight ends this week.
Yeah, this week. And we're going to get into that, I think, right now. Why not? So we're doing week 1 start sits. That's the thing today. We're each going to give you 1 start and 1 sit for QB, running back, wide receiver, tight end. So QBs, I'm a big proponent of streaming the QB position. And I guess I'll kick it off right here. So the quarterback that I'm going to say you have to start this week is Andy Dalton. Awful year last year. Screwed me over in every single week. So I was really high on him. But he looked good in the preseason. I think he was one of the most underrated stories in preseason of how good he looked. He's got targets in A.J. Green, John Ross, Joe Mixon, who's surprisingly a good pass catcher. Eifert's healthy. Tyler Boyd's in the slot. He's not awful. And then you got Giovanni Bernard out of the backfield someplace. And that's enough right there to say, oh, he's got to be at least a decent quarterback. And then you throw in the matchup against the Colts this week, who I can't even name 4 people in that secondary, I don't think. And it's all guys who got cuts from their previous teams. And they gave up the 9th most fantasy points per attempt last year. I think it's all systems go for Andy Dalton if you're in DFS or if you're struggling with a quarterback matchup this week, which we'll get into for the sits, I guess. You could rather have Andy Dalton over that guy. So, Nick, what do you think about the Andy Dalton start of the
I'm with
QB?
you. I'm with you. He was on. I started doing videos. So this Thursday, I did a video about my favorite DFS plays, and Andy Dalton was definitely on that list. Definitely gonna be a chalky play, I think, just based on the matchup. But he's probably good for that 250 and 2 touchdowns if you're looking to underspend. Or I'm sure Dalton is available on your waiver wire. So 2 QB leagues, he's definitely a great start. What was interesting to me is that the over-under in that game, and I touch on this a lot in my videos, I like to look at the Vegas lines to kind of see where I see games going, and they're very high. The point total is at 48, which I thought that's a lock for the under. I thought it was, you look at the other games in which the point totals are at like 48, 49, and it's like the Saints games, the Packers games, and the Patriots games. There's no reason that the Colts and the Bengals should be up there. Like, yes, I get it that the Bengals have like an improved offense with more personnel, and the Colts defense should be bad, but they're both very questionable in terms of offensive teams, and I don't think they're going to touch that 48 mark. But back to your point, though, I do think Dalton is a good player just based on the fact that the Colts secondary should be one to attack in fantasy on a week-to-week basis.
I agree with that. You got anything else to say on that?
No, I couldn't agree more because the over-under is very high. I expect a shootout in this game, and Andy Dalton has looked good in preseason.
All right, so who's your QB start, Dad?
My QB start is going to be Actually, I have a couple of them down there, but I'm going to
I
go
like
with
game one.
I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford. He has a great track record in season openings. He comes into the matchup against the Jets, averaging 28 fantasy points in the past 5 Week 1 outings. He also averaged 23 fantasy points per game at home last season. The Jets are one of 4 teams to allow 30 passing touchdowns last season, along with the Giants, Texans, and the Packers. And the defense is still a work in progress. Given that Stafford is at home and in prime time, I expect him to play like a top 10 fantasy quarterback.
You agree with that, Nick, or you disagree with that?
No, I got no problems with that. I think I don't think this Jets defense is going to be terrible, but I also think that the Lions defense is definitely susceptible to allowing more points than probably anticipated. And I think Stafford could be asked to pass the ball more than a lot of people expect. But yeah, I mean, pretty good matchup, and I love Stafford overall as a quarterback. So a ton of weapons, fire him up.
Yeah, weapons, easy matchup-ish, and then home, fire them up. That's basically it. Fantasy football does not have to be that hard, you know. See the weapons, matchup, there you go. So, Nick, who's your QB start for this week?
That's big facts, and I'm gonna drop a lot of facts on you right now. And
I'm ready for facts.
Justin, you saw my little tweet about Jared Goff, and Jared Goff is my play, my must start this week. They travel to Oakland. And they take on this Raiders defense that is obviously without Khalil Mack. Now, that is not the basis of my argument, but it definitely doesn't hurt. So, again, going back to the over-under, they're at 48.5, which is the third highest total, only behind the Patriots and the Saints game this weekend. So, Goff obviously had that stellar rookie year, right? I don't think Goff is anything great as a quarterback. I think he is like a kind of like a game manager, an above-average game manager in a great system with McVay. My thing is that he's going to be good enough to dismantle this Raiders defense based on the Raiders defense being horrible and the fact that Goff plays so well against bad defenses. Now, I have this split, I'm going to put it up on the screen for my subscribers right now, where I looked at his games against top 12 pass defenses in the NFL last year and his games against bottom, whatever's not in the top 12, so 13 through 32. And based on these splits, he was averaging 30 fantasy points per game against those bottom defenses, against 17.5 points per game, fantasy points per game against those top 12 defenses. He takes advantage of these lower tier defenses. And the Raiders last year, they averaged, or they were one of the worst pass defenses in 2017. 28th in yards per attempt to opposing quarterbacks. They were 32nd, dead last in number of interceptions. They only had 5 on the year. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was almost back when, remember Alex Smith didn't throw a touchdown to a receiver for 13 weeks? That was last year with the Raiders when they didn't pick a ball off until week 10, I remember. And it was became a running joke as the season went on. So they were last in interceptions, third to last, 30th in QB rating against their defense, 30th in Football Outsiders, pass defense, DVOA. So they're just a horrible defense. No longer Khalil Mack, should not have a lot of rush on them. So Jared Goff takes advantage of these defenses in this McVay system. So I think fire him up as well. Someone that you might be able to find on your bench, especially if you're in a 10-team league.
Yeah, I don't like Jared Goff at all this season, but the week 1 against Oakland, all the stats you said, stats don't lie. So fire him up right there. He could be on waiver wire in 10-team leagues. So, Dad, what do you got to say about Jared Goff for week 1?
Look, Oakland's defense isn't that good anyway. Now Mack is gone. Goff was great on the road last season. He averaged 21 fantasy points, I believe, in 8 games.
Sounds about right.
We'll see how Brandon Cooks fits in there. There's a lot of mouths to feed there, so he should have a good game this week too. Because Oakland's defense is not that good.
Yeah, when you got to choose between too many weapons, you know what you do? Take the quarterback. You take the quarterback. That's Goff.
There's a lot of mouths to feed there, so I'm excited to see how Brandon Cooks fits into that offense also.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Nick, who's your sit of the week for the quarterback position? I'll have you kick it off right here.
So I was thinking of a few different ones, and my sit of the week is I was going to go with Jimmy G, but I'm not going to do that, because he might surprise us. I'm going to go with Big Ben. I'm going to go with Big Ben traveling to Cleveland. They are 4-point favorites, and I actually put some money down on Cleveland +4. I think they might take this game.
My upset of the week right there.
Yeah, they don't. Oh, you picked them as an upset?
Yes, upset of the week. Pittsburgh's going down. Cleveland's going to get their first win.
Yeah, so we have Big Ben here, and my problem is obviously we know the road and home splits. He'll be on the road. And Evan Silva was, tweeting out some things about how the Steelers and Big Ben play awful when they're on the road, 1 o'clock games, and it's not very predictive of success. But I think that just goes to say like how these teams prepare, how Big Ben prepares, and maybe he's more of a primetime player, and those are the big games he puts up, and we've seen that in like playoff games and Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. He usually does well, and I think he's going to struggle on the road. They don't have Vance McDonald. They're probably without Le'Veon Bell, so those are two positions in which, those will be safety valves. But the biggest thing is supposedly the weather for this game is going to be terrible, torrential downpours, and that's obviously not good for a quarterback. So expect them to lean heavily on the run. Being on the road without weapons, bad weather, I'm out on Big Ben this week.
Fair enough reasons right there, Dad. You are you against that? You agree with that?
No, I like Cleveland this week in an upset.
Yeah. So
without Le'Veon Bell, Vance McDonald, Big Ben on the road. Oh, let's go, Cleveland. Get your first win, baby. Let's see what you got. You got all that talent there. Let's see what you got, Cleveland.
Yeah, my dad may not be that good at fantasy football, but the one thing he is good at is picking games somehow. I don't know how.
I won the picking league last year.
There you go.
All week long, 18 weeks long, however long. I won it last year.
So, Dad, who's your quarterback set of the week?
Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, my gosh. Why?
He hasn't proven himself yet. Look, the Chargers only allowed a quarterback to throw multiple touchdowns against them 4 times last season. And 2 were by Alex Smith, by the Chiefs. We'll see if Mahomes can have similar success as Smith's replacement. I don't think so. He might be good later on, but right now he hasn't proven himself. He's going to be fun to watch this year. But if you can avoid starting him this week against the Chargers and next week at Pittsburgh, that's probably the smart move to make. I do not like Patrick Mahomes this week.
Yep.
Let him. He's got to prove himself for me to give him some love. I think he's got great talent, but he's got to prove himself.
Yeah, in 1 quarterback leagues, I think you definitely sit this guy. But if you're in a 2 quarterback league, I don't think it makes for an awful start just because of the fact that Jason Barrett is out for the year, and it looks like Joey Bosa is not going to be in the game, but Melvin Ingram's still there. So it's going to match up. I think if you're in a 10-team league, you can easily avoid him and start the guys like Andy Dalton. Like we mentioned, Jared Goff can be on the waiver wire. So I agree with that. What about you, Nick?
So I kind of agree with it, but I am in a super flex league where I have to start Patrick Mahomes. He's my quarterback too.
Same here.
So I will be starting him, and I'm actually, I'm not confident in it, but I'm feeling pretty good for the reason that this Chiefs offense is going to be horrible. Eric Berry has already been ruled out. They're going to let up a ton of points, and to the fact of what you said with Verrett's out as well as Joey Bosa has been ruled out, both defenses are going to be down, right? They are not going to be. I just think this game has the potential to turn into a shootout. While I do think Mahomes probably ends up with a few turnovers, if you're in a league that doesn't penalize heavily for interceptions, like if it's, I think most Yahoo standard leagues are -1 for interception, I think Mahomes ends up padding the stats, whether it be through garbage time or whether it just be through a shootout. I think he might end up surprising. But, it would make sense because the Chargers are a great pass defense. So if you wanted to fade him, there are probably a lot better options. But I'm not, too mad about starting him in a super flex.
Yeah, if you have to start him in my situation, and also next with a super flex where you have to start the guy, I wouldn't be that scared about it. And if you get bonus points for long touchdowns, I think Tyreek Hill has had at least a 30-yard touchdown in the last 2 games against the Chargers, and now there's no Barrett. So
there you go.
We'll take a long touchdown or 2. All right, my set of the week for the quarterback is the guy that Nick mentioned earlier who he wasn't going to do, and it's Jimmy G. I love Jimmy G. I think he can possibly do well, but if you're in a 10-team league or you're in a 12-team league, there's guys I'd rather start like Andy Dalton or even Blake Bortles this week. So over the final 13 games of last season, the Vikings allowed multiple passing touchdowns to a quarterback just once. And I also mentioned the fact that they just got George Iloka and Sheldon Richardson. So that defense that was already really, really good last year just got better. And the sole reason why it's a sit for me is because there's probably better options on the waiver wire for you this week. So as simple as that. It doesn't have to be that hard. So, Dad, you agree with that, or you starting Jimmy G this week?
No, I'm not starting this week. He should have a chance for a big year this year, I believe. But this isn't a good matchup to trust him on the road. In 3 road games last year at Chicago, Houston, and the Rams, Garoppolo averages 15 fantasy points a game. So I do not like him to start this week.
Will you, Nick?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's a tough schedule to start off. I was going to use him as my fade guy, so no argument for me on this side. I'm sitting Jimmy
over there. All right, so let's get into the running back position. A little bit more players to choose from in this pool. I'll kick it off with my start of this week, and that's going to be Deion Lewis. I think that it's going to be a roughy weather game, I think, too, also in Miami. So you got a lot of these rainy games, which sucks. But you should see at least 15 touches. Both defenses aren't that stellar, so he's also going to be using the passing game, unlike Henry. I think you're going to get some run because in preseason they did split about half the carries, and I think it's going to be a close game. Went up to like where Deion Lewis should get. I said 15 touches, and I think that's enough to get some fantasy points. It makes for a decent flex play this week. So what do you guys say about that, Dad?
No, I agree with you. I'm curious to see what Henry's going to do, but I do like Deion Lewis there, especially out of the backfield catching passes. I hope he has a good game, but I'm more curious to see what Henry's going to do in that offense.
Yeah, so what about you, Nick? What do you guys say about Deion Lewis?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Lewis just as a player, so I don't think I'd ever argue against starting him in your lineup. He's pretty much game script proof for the fact that he could run and pass the ball, and I think this might be closer than people anticipate. I'm pretty sure. Sorry, I got text messages popping up. I'm pretty sure that you look at this game initially and you're just like, oh, lock for Tennessee, but on the road in Miami, like you said, could be bad weather. I think that Deion Lewis is going to get a lot of work just for the fact that I don't expect Tennessee to run away with this game and be like a Derrick Henry type game script. So I expect him to split the snaps, and I expect Lewis to get the majority of the passing work, if not all of it. So yeah, I'm definitely on board with Lewis here.
There it is. So who's your start at the running back position, Nick? Who are you looking for this week to be a plug and play?
Well, I don't know if he's a plug and play, but I'm getting a ridiculous amount of questions about this guy, and it's Jamaal Williams for the Packers against Chicago. Now, I'm getting so many questions, and almost every single answer to those questions are Jamaal Williams, Jamaal Williams, Jamaal Williams, Jamaal Williams. Like, you guys have to understand, like, you drafted him, you have to take advantage of this little frame where Aaron Jones is out, because Jamaal Williams owns this backfield for the time being. Even if you believe that Aaron Jones is a superior running back, that doesn't matter. Opportunity is king on a week-to-week basis, and Jamaal Williams is what it anticipates him to be this week. They literally only have him and Ty Montgomery. They just signed this other kid, Darius Jackson, like literally 5 minutes ago, like 4 days ago. He signed to this roster. They have no one else to use. The best part about this game, too, is they're going against the Bears. They're heavy favorites. They're a touchdown, if not more favorites. So you expect the game script to be in favor of a guy like Jamaal Williams, who's going to handle the bulk of carries. So I would expect them to get up, use him heavily in the running game. He was also used like outside and in the slot during the preseason games when Aaron Rodgers was on the field. So they're trying different things, and they're utilizing him in the passing game, which he was pretty successful at down the stretch last year. He's shown that he could be the workhorse. So I expect monster games from Jamaal Williams while Aaron Jones is out, and I'm firing him up over. I think he's like, I did my rankings earlier this week, and he's possibly like my 25th ranked player overall for the week, if not even higher than that. So Jamaal Williams, get his ass in your lineups.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say one thing about that, and that's volume is key. So there you go. Dad, what you got to say about Jamaal Williams this week?
Volume is key, and so is opportunity.
That's the same thing.
Same exact thing.
Let's get it.
All right, so who's your start, Dad?
My start, I'm just going to lead it with this. Thank you, Denver, for doing the right thing and making Freeman the starter over Davante Booker. Come on, for weeks now we've been hearing Davante's a starter. Finally, they get some sense. They say Freeman's a starter. Booker's going to get some touches, but look for Freeman to handle a heavy workload and build off a strong preseason. He had a great preseason, 90 yards, 3 touchdowns. I look for him to build off of that. It would be nice to see him more involved in the passing game, but he should still have success because Seattle's defense isn't as good as it's been in the past, and they're also without KJ Wright because of his knee. He's the first rookie back to start for Broncos since 1995, Terrell Owens, I do believe. So I look for him to have a big game.
Davis.
He's going to build on his preseason.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Denver. About time you came to your senses. I've been telling you that since the draft.
And the Seahawks defense isn't what it used to be, but
No.
so I think it's definitely get Royce Freeman in your week 1 lineup.
No.
What do you got to say about Royce Freeman this week, Nick?
So I let me ask you: would you rather play Jamaal Williams or Royce Freeman in your flex spot?
In my flex spot, wow. Do you have those two options as your flex spot? I think if you drafted later in the year, Royce Freeman's probably your running back 2.
I have a decision between those two. I think in one of those.
I'd start Royce Freeman.
Really?
Is it PPR league?
Half PPR.
Half PPR league. That's really close to my rankings. I'm going Jamaal Williams. I'd take the team that I think Jamaal Williams is home, right? Jamaal Williams is home, and so is
Denver's home. Yeah, Denver's home.
Denver.
No, they're both home. I'm going to take Jamaal Williams. I just think that I'm not going to have to worry about. I think Davante Booker's going to take more away than Ty Montgomery, because I think Ty Montgomery could be on the field at the same time as Jamaal Williams, whereas Davante Booker would be on the field over Royce Freeman.
Agreed. That's
That's a logical point.
That's my thing is like the fact that they were lining Jamaal Williams up outside, like as a receiver when Rodgers was on the field, tells you that they're fine playing him on every snap, even with Ty Montgomery in there. So that's good. I'm a little nervous, like what you said about Royce Freeman in the passing game. I think he obviously is going to take over that role. It's pretty clear to everybody. But the early season is what makes me nervous because he's not getting, a huge passing down role. And
Right.
that kind of makes me shy away. But
If they're going to make him a workhorse back like they're talking, like I said, I'd like to see him more involved in a passing game.
yeah, the whole starter talk doesn't really get me too hard because I feel like anyone could say that. Like you'd be like, Josh Gordon's not starting. Have Antonio Callaway play the first rep, and then Josh Gordon's 99% of the snaps after that. You know what I mean? So I don't really talk. I don't hear that noise, but
I'm just happy they made the right decision.
My dad's how, yeah. My dad.
Because I've been saying that since the draft.
I could tell.
That's definitely a tough decision, but you got to go with the sure bet and Jamaal Williams rather than a rookie talk. So sits of the week. Let's do sits for running backs real quick. My sit this week for running back is going to be Chris Carson. Broncos defense they lost to leave, but they got someone named Bradley Chubb in the draft, and you combine him with Von Miller. Have fun. And they're all Seahawks are on the road. They don't have a good offensive line. I think Penny's gonna get some work. I'm fading Chris Carson, who was going. I saw him go in the fourth round in some drafts later in the year. So,
Jeez.
What's the viewpoint from Chris Carson? We'll have Nick go right after me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I would hope that I would have other options there, but I guess like in a deeper league, I wouldn't hate having him in a flex only because how many starting running backs are there in the NFL that I think are. He should see a good workload. I don't really know what's going to go on with third downs and passing down work. Like you said, it's kind of mysterious going on there. So if you could fade him, I would definitely fade him. He's definitely not like a must start for me. So I'm with you on that.
What you dad?
Yeah, I'm with you too.
All right. So who is your sit, Nick? We'll go Nick first. Yeah.
I had a couple guys here, and I want to throw these first couple names out. I'm not going to go into depth, but guys, if you have like Kerryon Johnson, don't play him week 1. You're going to have to wait till he gets into a workload because that is a full committee. Blunt's probably the starter there. And on the opposite side of things, Isaiah Crowell is the guy I'm absolutely sitting as well. Bilal Powell looked to be the better running back in New York. Crowell, it's just a messy situation there. Game script does not dictate that Crowell will be on the field more than Powell. So those two names I just wanted to get out there to let you know. Do not play them. This guy is actually probably more of a surprise, and you might not have the luxury of sitting him in most of your leagues. But I'm going to say Jordan Howard on the opposite side of the ball. Now, Green Bay is a ridiculously underrated run defense. They were one of the best in the NFL last year, if not number one, and they are the number 1 ranked run defense per Pro Football Focus entering this year. The other thing, as I touched on, the game script is not going to be good. They are going to be trailing against the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. Game script is, as much as they talk about getting Jordan Howard in on third downs, game script is going to dictate which of their running backs is making plays and which of their running backs is getting opportunities. So I think that if they're down a lot, which I expect, Rodgers to pile it on there, I don't think Jordan Howard is going to be successful against a very stiff run defense, as well as, when they're down and they're trailing and they're in hurry-up mode, this seems like more of a Tariq Cohen game than a Howard game for me.
I see it too. I was a little shocked at first, but the points you made were really clear, and I think you could start James Conner over Jordan Howard this week, solely based on matchup. But most people got Howard as their 1 or 2. I think you have to start by that point, but if you can see Conner on your free agent wire, go check that out. Add him, drop someone on the bench, and put him in for week 1, because fantasy football is a weekly game, and you drafted Jordan Howard for not this matchup. But the good matchups to come.
Yeah, Nick had a lot of good points there. I'd agree with that too.
So who's your sit, Dad?
I said, you're definitely going to, this isn't my guy, but you're going to sit Alfred Morris. He's going to be a sit because I would actually sit both of them this week, him and Breida, now that McKinnon is out with his knee, because the Vikings are so good against the run. But my guy this week is going to be Marshawn Lynch. I would sit him, even though last year he ended the season on a tear with at least 11 PPR points in 6 of his final 8 games. Still, this is a different defense this year. Lynch, I believe, is going to share touches with Doug Martin the first couple games. I'm okay with starting him in a flex option, but he's not a must-start running back this week, especially in PPR.
Yeah, I think.
Plus, he's going to go against Sanu and Donald.
I was going to say,
right? I don't think
that's Sanu.
Well, Sanu. So I'd sit him this week. See what he does. I mean, I think he's going to be a beast later on in the year, but I think he's going to share touches right off the bat. And it's a tough defense to go against.
Yeah, the Rams were actually gave the most points to fantasy running backs last year, but the addition of Sue should help that a lot, I think. And even with volume alone, I think Lynch is at max a low-volume RB2. And there's also going to be a negative game script in this one. And I think Jalen Rashaad can get some work. And I think the Raiders are also a bottom half implied team total in Vegas for week 1. So I'm not playing Marshawn Lynch this week unless you absolutely have to.
The Rams actually allowed the second most fantasy points to running backs last year.
Depending on what you look at, yes. All right, Nick, what do you guys say about Marshawn Lynch week 1?
Yeah, he was someone that I was definitely looking to fade this week. And it's mainly like I feel like I get so many questions about Marshawn Lynch. I'm like, oh, why don't you like him? Why don't you like him? Well, first of all, this is going to be a great clash when Lynch and like Sue and Donald kind of clash heads up the middle there. This is going to be a fun matchup to watch. But my thing is totally not against Marshawn Lynch. He was an animal last year, and I think he's a great talent still and can be very good. I have literally zero faith that the Oakland coaching staff is going to utilize him like a workhorse. That's the problem here. I think they're going to force balls to Doug Martin, even though he's completely ineffective. I think, like you said, Jalen Richard is probably going to take a lot of the passing down work. So Marshawn Lynch is not a guy I'm looking to start against this Rams defense with the newly added Ndamukong Suh, Aaron Donald back. It's mostly just to the fact that you can't assume that NFL coaches are going to act rationally. So I would fade that in the sense of the Raiders because what we've seen so far this offseason is completely irrational from a personnel standpoint.
Right there on the head. All right.
Good point.
Let's go on to wide receivers now. So, I'll have you start off. Who's your wide receiver start this week? Not start of the week, but start this week.
Start of the week is definitely Chris Hogan, but he's not my guy. But if you have Chris Hogan in all your leagues, you better start him.
Every single week, baby.
Nice.
So my start guy of the week is going to be Emmanuel Sanders. Look, so far he's had a better report with Case Keenum over Demaryius Thomas. I like Sanders' matchup better this week against Seattle. He's had 7 catches for 88 yards in a preseason compared to just 3 catches for 18 yards for Thomas. Now, if you have Thomas, you're still starting him, but don't be surprised if Sanders ends up with a better stat line. Both are quality number 2 fantasy receivers in all leagues, given the matchups, because Seattle's secondary is terrible.
And last time Nick was on our podcast for the mock draft, I believe he also said he put Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas in a vacuum. Emmanuel Sanders would have more points, and I agree with him right there. And here it is right here.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. I like the matchup too. What about you, Nick?
So you actually, I'm looking through the game feed right now because Manny Sanders was also my must start of the week for wide receiver. I mean, just looking at what happened this preseason, they have Sanders running from the slot like 60 to 70% of the routes. And then you have Case Keenum, who threw the ball a million times to Adam Thielen last year, who was the slot receiver. He is targeting Sanders. I think it was a league high 44% of his targets this preseason, man. It's just the math has gone over beautifully from Minnesota to Denver, slot receiver to slot receiver. Sanders is that guy, thankfully, because of Cortland Sutton being the beast that he is. He's going to take away targets from Demaryius Thomas on the outside, and that's going to allow Sanders to play the slot where Keenum gets his work done. This is not a good Seattle defense like we've talked about already. They're not the same defense that they were. This is a matchup to exploit for Emmanuel Sanders. So not only do I back that up, but I'm going to double down on that.
Down on it. And the stat I keep going back to is that Keenum led the league in snap target percentage to the slot at 25%. So let's go Sanders. And Dad, you have to go against him week 1 in the listener league, baby. Going down.
It's going to be a shame I beat you with that stat and Le'Veon Bell not playing. It's going to be a shame.
All right. So my start for this week at the wide
receiver
position.
That's all you got? You got nothing?
I'll let my players talk for me. So this
business, baby.
My start this week. My start this week, same game. It's going to be on the other side of the ball. Well, other side of the field. And that's going to be Tyler Lockett, not Doug Baldwin. So we are already expecting an increased workload for this guy before Doug Baldwin's injury announcement. And now you have him coming out saying he's not going to be 100%. And it looks like he's going to be lining up against Tremaine Brock, which is the best matchup compared to Doug Baldwin, who's going to be facing, or even Jerome Brown. So I think that the volume's going to be there, and he's a guy you can plug and play over some other guys in a flex spot. And I think the volume is, like we said, opportunity trumps all, and I think he's going to be a decent play this week and cheap option in DFS. Nick, what do you got to say about Tyler Lockett this week?
I like the call. I'm just like in theory, it makes sense to me. I just don't know if we're going to see it kind of come to fruition. Like he will have the opportunity, and Baldwin's a little banged up, but that Seattle's offense really just scares me, especially against this Denver defense, man. I don't know. I'm cool with him in the lineup as a flex for sure, but I'm not going to get too high on Lockett this week.
Yeah, it's not great. I think it's one of those like deep plays if you're like struggling to find a guy. I wouldn't like say automatically put him in my lineup. It was one of our like sneaky plays, but I think he has a chance to get a big play too. So
yeah,
we'll see. He's definitely a guy who has the explosiveness. What do you got to say about Tyler Lockett?
Yeah, Denver's defense is definitely going to put the pressure on Wilson. So I don't know if I'm not starting anyone on Seattle's offense.
All right, I'll put it out there. Tyler Lockett or Keelan Cole? Who are you starting this week?
Cole.
Keelan Cole all day.
Keelan Cole season. There you go. Yeah, Eli Apple will probably be against him, and as Giants fan, you don't want Eli Apple covering anyone. So it's all Keelan Cole. It's Keelan Cole season. It's Tyler Lockett season. It's Nelson Aguilar season and Kenny Stills season. All these guys, that's SZN for at least week 1. I think they're all going to do good. Let's go to sits. I think that's where we're at sits now. I'll kick it off with the sits to start it off. And my wide receiver sit is going to be Jordy Nelson. The Rams defense, like we already said, it got better. They they gave up 5.29 points per game against a wide receiver 2, which is incredible. That's the 90th percentile, and they got better. They had Talib and Marcus Peters. Like, I don't even understand how they were going to get Khalil Mack. Like, oh my goodness.
Right?
If they did get Khalil Mack, it was going to be game over for the NFL. But I think Nelson this week's a touchdown or bust guy, and I think you can easily find better options sitting on a waiver wire or your bench. So, Dad, do you agree with that? Or you?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I like Michael Crabtree there anyway. I'm okay with that.
Michael Crabtree there.
Wrong team.
Never mind, Justin.
He's high.
Edit that out. Yeah, edit that out.
That's okay.
Move on.
We forgive you.
Writing that one down. Where are we at?
We forgive you because
Oh my
no one should be playing Michael Crabtree anyways. Don't worry.
Some of the wrong team. Yeah. Good luck editing this one.
You know how many times you do that?
This is staying in my video. There's no way I'm editing this out.
Yeah, edit that out, Nick, will you?
No shot.
Yeah, they already crapping on you last time we had a video with Nick Sheets. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
All right, what about you, Nick? What do you got to say about Jordy Nelson this week?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wasn't starting him regardless. I would almost put like Amari Cooper in that zone too, just because I don't want to throw my wide receivers against this Rams defense. The one thing I will say is really interesting is the fact that, like, all right, so if you guys you're a bettor, so you probably looked at the spreads. Have you looked at the spread of the Rams Raiders game?
You're talking to me or my dad?
Either one of you guys.
I have no idea.
I looked at it. I don't remember.
If you had to guess who's the favorite and what the point spread is, what would you guess?
If the Raiders are the favorite, I'm walking out of this room.
Oh, they can't be the favorite.
They're not the favorite. They're not.
All right, I'd probably say 4.5 to the Rams.
Really? It is. It's
6.5, I think.
It's 4. It's 4 now.
4.
Oh wow, I'm freaking good at this.
But I was shocked by that. Like it just doesn't match up between the Rams offense and the Raiders defense and vice versa on those side of things. Like initially, I'm like, that's an easy lock, but Vegas always knows, and when it seems too easy, that's when you got to fade that, because the entire public will be on the Rams, and this is when the Oakland Raiders cover. So I'm not too quick to fade Amari Cooper because he might have a big game there. Vegas just really fucks with my mind way too much when I start looking into things, you know. But I don't know. I'm definitely not going to play Jordy Nelson here.
Yeah.
Back to the original question at hand.
All right, so who's your start, Nick?
My sit.
No, sit.
Oh yeah, sit. Wow, I'm pulling with that.
So I had a few of them. I had a few of them here, and I was thinking about making it Mike Evans because he struggled so much against Marshawn Lattimore and doesn't have Winston. But again, I don't think most people have the luxury of sitting him. And I was going to pick Allen Robinson too, because I just, I'm not a believer in Robinson until I see him do it and until we see Trubisky really become a good outside thrower. But harping on your point where you said you're sitting Jimmy G, I am also sitting Marquise Goodwin. So Marquise Goodwin is my sit of the week. Of course, he's going to be in Minnesota, or they're going to be playing Minnesota at home, but he's going to see a lot of Xavier Rhodes, and that's nothing you want to see as an opposing wide receiver. Marquise Goodwin is someone that I just did a video on like top trade targets early in the early course of the season, and Goodwin gets some tough matchups to start the year. I can't remember all of their matchups, but he has like 4 of the top 5 shadow coverage corners over the first 5 weeks of the season, and I think he's going to struggle pretty heavily, while Jimmy G probably checks down to his running back slot and probably checks down to George Kittle, assuming he's healthy and ready to go. And that could even mean for someone like Pierre Garçon, who I truly despise this year in fantasy football, he could actually perform pretty well. And he might actually be a sell high guy with a few weeks into the season just because Goodwin's got such tough matchups. So I'm definitely fading him against this Vikings defense who allowed third fewest or second fewest points to opposing fantasy wide receivers. So I'm not getting any good vibes from Goodwin.
Music to my ears. I had to face him week one. And that's my dad who has him, who loves Marquise Goodwin this year, but it is a tough matchup week one. So, Dad, what do you got to say about Goodwin?
It is a tough matchup, and Garoppolo, we already had him as one of our sits, so that could go either way. I'm starting him no matter what, and hopefully he does good.
A plus B equals C. Well, you can see sometimes bad matchups and then have a good wide receiver. It's
He's
like DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah,
it's not DeAndre Hopkins.
Nice.
Who's your sit then?
What Garoppolo does. He's not going to continue on what he did at the end of last year, so we'll see.
Sure. Who's your sit, Dad?
It's an obvious one. Doug Baldwin. Look, I'm hopeful Baldwin will be fine with his knee injury, but he's already said he'll be playing the season at 80-85%, so he's probably never going to be 100% this year. And this week he's facing a tough matchup against Denver's cornerback, Chris Harris. So since we didn't see Baldwin in the preseason, it's tough to trust him in week one, so we're sitting him.
We're sitting him. There, I agree with that, just for all the reasons you just said, and I have Lockett as a better play than him this week. So, what about you, Nick? What do you got to say?
Dude, I'm in my big money league, my favorite league. I have to decide in my second flex spot if I want to start Doug Baldwin or Mike Evans, and I'm having such a hard time choosing between the two. Both of them have horrible matchups. Both of them should be the wide receiver ones there, but
you got to start Mike Evans there.
You think so?
I think so.
I don't know. I was gonna lean towards Baldwin, to be honest with you. I don't really know why, but I feel like Seattle's gonna be chasing. Russell Wilson's just gonna be scrambling for his life, and it's not a good situation.
I just don't trust what Baldwin could do. I think he's more of a bust alert, especially since it's hard because people made a high investment on him.
I got lucky. I took him because he fell to me in the 6th round of my draft. Like, no one wanted to invest in him, and I was like, I'm not gonna. You know what I mean?
6th round.
Yeah. And that's why I'm deciding between him and Evans.
Yeah, I go Evans.
That's a tough choice. I'd have to go Evans there. I have to.
Yeah. So by the looks of our faces and the tone of this conversation, you could tell that obviously I don't like Baldwin either much this week. But
I know.
It's almost forced into it. But if you can fade Baldwin, yes, do so.
We always make them choices, and then we start the guy, and then. When the game's halfway over, we go, why didn't I start him?
Yeah.
Every year.
I don't know if we're that angry at it, but yeah, that's a pretty close one. So moving on to the tight end position, Dad, who's your tight end start for this week? Who do you have that you want to put in lineups that you could possibly find on the waiver wire or just on your bench? Or a starter, whatever you want to do.
I'm putting Jordan Reed in all day. Reed is healthy for the first time since week 8 of last season. And hopefully he won't have any setbacks with his toe injury all year. We haven't seen him much in preseason, so we really don't know what he's going to do. But if you drafted Reed, you got to put him in. He's among the best fantasy tight ends. He should see plenty of targets from Alex Smith this week. He has Alex Smith has a good track record with his tight ends. You're starting Reed all day.
Yeah, Arizona's a good defense against tight ends, but I think the targets are going to be there enough to make him a top 12 option, hopefully.
I hope he's healthy. Like I said, we haven't seen him in preseason. He had both toes operated on. He says he's feeling good. He's feeling the best he has in a while. So
yeah,
I don't know if it's just me or not, but it feels like I haven't seen Jordan Reed play football in 2 years. I don't know. It's been a long time. What do you got to say about Jordan Reed this week, Nick?
No, dude, I will not start him anywhere. I will not. I actually picked him up in one of my leagues because my must start tight end is my starting guy, but he was on the wire, and I was like, you know what? My starting guy is not great, so if Jordan Reed pops, I'll have him on my bench. That's fine. But like you said, we haven't seen Jordan Reed play good football in years. Like, people's optimism when it comes to injuries are very, very, very optimistic, if for lack of a better term. Their injury optimism is optimistic. Too much so. It's possible that Reed goes off, but he's getting his toes operated on again. This is the best he's ever felt, which is, what else is new when it comes to Jordan Reed? He's always the best he's ever felt, despite constantly being in casting, having his toes taken off and whatnot. So I'm not going to say he's a must-start for me. He's not someone that's going to be in my lineup, to be honest with you. But it wouldn't surprise if he made me look like shit. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't think he's a start. I think he's a you play him. I wouldn't play him and be like, oh, he's going to suck. I'd play him and be like, yeah, I'm not expecting a lot.
I think he's going to have a good week 1. He hasn't played in a long time. I expect him to have a big game. I expect him to have a big game. Like I said, we don't know what we're going to expect, but me personally, I hope he has a good game.
Yeah, and you could probably find a guy.
I'm starting him in one league.
And like Nick said, you could probably find someone on waiver wire better like he has. So let's go right into that right now. Nick, who is your tight end start for this week?
It's Jack Doyle. It's the white boy over in Indy, baby. So I like people keep wanting to make Eric Ebron a thing. I really don't know why, but I really don't think it's going to happen this year. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't think Ebron is really ever going to be a thing. Jack Doyle is the tight end to own in Indianapolis, and with Andrew Luck back, he loves tight ends. He targets tight ends on a ridiculously high percentage of his throws, especially his touchdown percentage goes to tight ends at a ridiculous rate. The other thing is, like, the concern for Andrew Luck this offseason that we haven't seen him sling the ball yet, right? We haven't seen him throw the ball deep. So what does that say? If he's not going to be throwing the ball deep, he's going to be throwing it short, intermediate, checkdowns. That's where Jack Doyle does his thing. The Cincinnati defense, while they're not bad, they're pretty good against the pass. They let up points to the tight end. They were the 9th friendliest defense to fantasy tight ends last year, and Jack Doyle actually played against them last year. He caught 12 of 14 targets, 121 yards, and a touchdown. Jack Doyle owned the Bengals in 2017. I expect him to do so in 2018. Let's get it.
Boom. And that amazing stat line you just listed, was that with Andrew Luck or was that without Andrew Luck? That's the thing. You got to think about it, too. So that's without Andrew Luck added in. I can see 15 catches, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Jeez. Might as well call him Julio Doyle over here. Yeah.
Julio Doyle.
Julio Doyle over here. This actually is the 5th highest point total this week, according to Vegas. I think it's going to be a shootout. It's indoors. I love Doyle, and Ebron does not scare me, so that's music to my ears.
It's crazy that people get so high on Ebron, but like Doyle had the 2nd highest receptions among, like, only Kelsey had more catches than him. Doyle had 80 catches last year. He had like the 4th highest catch rate in the entire NFL among tight ends. Like, Doyle was legitimately really, really good. The yards and stuff weren't there because his average depth of throw was really short, considering they didn't have a good quarterback, of course, but Doyle was like a legit playmaker, especially in PPR leagues last year, and just Andrew Luck is a guy who loves tight ends, so I think the match is perfect there.
What about you, Dan? I guess about,
I agree. I don't like Ebron either, and I think Luck's going to throw a lot of the short passes. I think Jack Doyle's a good start.
He is somehow, if he's on your waiver wire in 10-team leagues or 12-team leagues, please pick this man up and put him in a lineup. Like, he's going to be top 12 guaranteed this week. I'm putting that on.
That's another guy I'm anxious to see what he does is Andrew Luck.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make him air it out, which is another. It doesn't have to be hard. Fantasy football does not have to be hard. A guy's coming back from a year off without throwing football game speed for 40 times. You're not going to make him throw the ball 90 yards down the field every play. Middle, short passes, dink and dunk to Jack Doyle. Only Jack Doyle.
I actually have to start Andrew Luck in that super flex league where I'm starting Patrick Mahomes. I also have Andrew Luck going. So this is going to be a fucking interesting week for me in that one.
I have a Big Ben in Mahomes, so we'll see how that goes.
I think I would take Luck there.
All right. So my tight end start is a guy you can hopefully find on waiver wires unless you have some savvy league mates, and that's going to be Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Everyone's saying, Keelan Cole, D.D. Westbrook, Dante Moncrief's going to step up since his knee injury, but what about Austin Seferian-Jenkins? The reports are he's getting targeted a lot in camp throughout the whole offseason. You got to put some respect on his name. You have to. And then the Giants struggled heavily against the tight end last year, second to last, and there's no Olivier Vernon week 1, which makes it an easier pass rush. So I think the whole Jags offense can succeed week 1 against the Giants, and I hate saying that, but I think Austin Seferian-Jenkins is a great pickup and a great matchup week 1, and if you're streaming the tight end position, if you punted that during your draft, then Austin Seferian-Jenkins is my starter of the week for tight end. What about you? What do you guys say about that, Dad?
I got no comment. I'm not starting him.
Well, why not?
I don't have him. I don't want him. He's all yours.
We're not talking about. We're talking about the listeners' leagues,
dude. No, so on the real. So Austin Seferian-Jenkins is another one of these dudes who I feel like we don't see be good at football, but we want them to be good, but it just doesn't come to fruition. And my problem this week, I will give it to you. If there's going to be ever a week to play him, it's this week not because like training camp reports about him being targeted. I don't look too much into that.
About that, yeah.
But that they're playing the Giants. Like if you have a tight end going against the Giants and he's even average, anywhere near above average or average, like you throw him into your lineup because he's probably going to score a touchdown. My concern with ASJ is they already have one of the premier goal line options in the world, in the league, in Leonard Fournette. You know what I mean? So when they're down there, I don't know if they're going to be looking Leonard Fournette's way. They also have Moncrief as their wide receiver too, who, another guy, everyone wants to be good, but we've never actually seen him be good at football, but he is a touchdown machine. You know what I mean? So they have options down there. So ASJ kind of scares me, but the fact that he's going against this Giants defense, of course, is like, yeah, he's definitely a reliable streamer.
Yeah, I think for streaming, and then after this week, you can say goodbye to him because, like you said, he's not that good. And I think Vernon would be lining up against him on man coverage on some plays if he was on the left side, but he's not there anymore. So backup defenser for the Giants, and that's not what you want. It's not going. Giants are going to start the season 0-1, Dad.
Hey, they got the first 5 or 6 games are going to be very tough.
Yeah,
right with the Falcons 0-1, bottom of the NFC.
Stop it!
There it is.
Stop it!
So sits this week for tight end. I'll kick it off. I'll start it out, and this is going to be the tandem of the Tampa Bay tight ends: Cameron Howard, Cameron Bray, OJ Howard. So New Orleans allowed the 5th lowest tight end points last year. They're also home, so Tampa Bay is on the road. There's no Winston, and the most pass attempts by Ryan Fitzpatrick last season were short left or short right, and tight ends sometimes run routes right there, but mainly they run routes over the middle. So I don't see them being fantasy viable, and you can find a guy like Safarian Jenkins who I'd play over him, or if Jack Doyle's somehow still there, you take him and put him over there. So that's my sit right there. What do you guys say about the sit right there, Dad?
Yeah, the only way they're going to get touches because they're going to be behind because Drew Brees is going to light him up.
Drew Brees is going to go.
Drew Brees, I think this week is going to be back to the old Drew Brees where he's throwing the ball. But so that means that Tampa Bay is going to be throwing the ball a lot to try to play catch up. That's the only reason why one of them tight ends might be some value. But no, we're sitting them both.
Yeah, it's like too hard to predict too. It's like the opportunity cost there. It's I don't know. It's messy, and I wouldn't be starting either of them. I want Howard to be the guy so bad there, but again, I just don't trust that the coaching staff is going to make that happen.
Yeah. It's the one thing. A player can be so talented, but the coaches do this stuff where they have other players and they don't like a player or like a player more. You can't control who goes on the field, so talent's wasted right there. But hopefully in a couple of years, Howard breaks out. So who's your sit, Dad? Who's your tight end sit this week?
It's probably going to be more obvious than yours. It's going to be Charles Clay. Look, Buffalo's starting Peterman. We don't know how he's going to do, but I don't have much confidence in any of the Buffalo players in this matchup on the road at Baltimore. It's the pick of the week. Baltimore's going to tear Buffalo up. Clay comes into the game with a 10-game streak without a touchdown. He's more valuable in PPR, of course, but since he should see plenty of catches in this game, I mean, he had 4 receptions for 24 yards and 6 targets in the last preseason game of the season. But that's typical for Clay. That's what you're kind of going to get from him. So start him at your own leisure. But I think Baltimore's going to eat them up.
What do you guys say about that?
I don't like anyone on Buffalo. Anybody. They're going to be so bad this year.
Yeah, I would fade every single Buffalo player this week. Clay is another guy that I just like. I can't stand when fantasy analysts like talk about them. They're always like, "Oh, Clay's the best tight end value." It's like, yeah, he's going at tight end 27 and might finish as tight end 21. That doesn't mean you can play him on any given week. You know what I mean? Like, yes, he's a value, but he still sucks. That's how I view Charles Clay, and I won't own him anywhere.
I love it.
He will never enter my lineup. Yeah, I'm off Charles Clay, so yeah, you can get him all the way out of my lineup.
Yeah, I mean, then not that it matters. I'm off him too this week, but the Ravens don't have Jimmy Smith, so not week 1, but looking for week 2 matchups to exploit the passing offense is going against the Ravens, unless it's the Bills, who I don't even know what to say about that. It's just bad.
It's the Bills.
So who's your sit, Nick?
Going back to the San Francisco, I realized like after I did this, like I looked at my sits and I was like, oh, I have Jimmy G, Alfred Morris, Marquise Goodwin, and George Kittle. So I was like, I have to switch things up. But George Kittle is my tight end sit of the week. The reason is he's missed this entire month, this last, the whole part of preseason, all their games and stuff with that shoulder injury. He is ready to go. He is ready to roll. And I think everyone's looking at him as like the shiny new toy. And they're like, yep, I want to get him right into the lineup. This is a ridiculously tough matchup. Minnesota, everyone knows, is a great pass defense. They're even better against tight ends. They allowed the least fantasy points against the tight end position in the entire NFL last year. They locked down tight ends. I think that's going to be the case for George Kittle. Obviously, if you've listened to me so far, I am just fading the San Francisco offense as a whole. I'm not sure George Kittle gets thrown right back into like an 85-90% snap share. So if you're not getting on the field a lot and you're playing against a tough defense, it's an easy fade for me.
Easy fade for me, too. I'm not going to say anything else about that because right there. Dad, what do you got to say about George Kittle this week?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Only 3 tight ends have scored against Minnesota in 2017. None in the final 11 games. And is Kittle even guaranteed to play?
Yes.
He's going to be on the field. Yeah.
So, yeah, they don't allow much success for any tight ends. Minnesota's defense. So
or any offense.
Yeah. So that's a good sit.
It's a good sit. So yeah, that wraps up today's start sits for week 1. We gave you each one, so 3-3, and we doubled down on Emmanuel Sanders. I'll even triple down on that right there for the start of the week, I think, at wide receiver. We love Manny Sanders, and it's going to be fun to watch, and I'm excited for this DFS and this whole week. Football's back. I couldn't be more happy.
Football's back.
Let's go.
Let's go. Football's back. So, Nick, where can they find you on Twitter, YouTube, all that stuff? What? Plug it.
Sure. So y'all can find me on YouTube. It's just my name, Nick Ercolano. I'm not really sure what Justin pronounced it as before, but that was probably
Ercolinko.
Yeah, there's not a K or a C in that, but you could just type in my name.
First time you were on, I had it right, and this time I just didn't even look at it. I just went for it.
Yeah, I've heard some funny pronunciations over my my years in school with new teachers and stuff. But you can find me on YouTube, Nick Ercolano. That's ERCOLANO. You can find me on Twitter. It's at Nick_BDGE. Stands for Big Dogs Gotta Eat. And those are the 2 places that you can find me.
Yeah, definitely worth a subscribe. He just hit 10K, so congrats on that. Big accomplishment right there. That's just crazy.
10K, awesome, Nick. Awesome job.
Well deserved. Last time he was on the show, he had 6.8, so we definitely did that. So
yeah, thank you for you guys. Couldn't have done it without y'all.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but thanks for coming on this show again. We love having you on. I'm the 2nd-time guest right here, so back to back. Not really, but back to back in a month and a half. But it works out.
Hey, don't worry about
it.
Week
1's upon us, so I'm ready for it.
Thank you, Nick. Awesome.
Yeah, guys, no problem, man. Thank you for having me, and I would be more than happy to come back on and discuss something later in the year. But as always, good time, good people. Good fantasy advice. Don't start Jimmy Graham ever, and that's what I'll
start Jimmy Graham ever. Don't start Jimmy Graham ever.
We're starting Jimmy Graham every week.
I can't wait till he goes off for 13 touchdowns this year.
Oh, I can't wait.
I'm gonna be out of a job.
He might have 3 touchdowns week 1. Oh, look out.
Probably.
All right, so that's actually going to wrap up today's episode. Make sure you are following Justin as well as their show on Twitter. I will link their handles down below. Make sure you are subscribed to their podcast. If you're listening via my podcast, make sure you leave a rating, review, say something to me. I don't care what it is, to be honest with you. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here on YouTube. Please give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed and you found it valuable. And I'll see y'all in another lifetime. Peace.